Welcome to the Event Pro Show, your ultimate guide to the world of corporate events. Whether you're a corporate event planner, experiential marketing pro, producer, technician, or anyone involved in creating exceptional events, this podcast is your go-to resource for valuable insights, expert tips, and inspiring stories from the industry's leading professionals.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Event Pro Show. I am your host, Seth Mackey. I'm the CEO of LEMG. We're an event production company based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We travel all over the country producing primarily corporate events. So as you know, this podcast is usually has guests that in some way, shape, or form touch corporate events. And today's guest, I'm really excited about. I've known Sam for a long time. He's doing some really cool, innovative things that you need to know about. But Sam, I'm going to do your bio here to give you an intro. Today's guest is Sam McDonald, the founder of Echo, a company born from more than 15 years in event and video production and built around one simple truth: too many incredible live events, and with all that valuable content sitting on a hard drive. Sam and his team help planners and producers transform event footage into ready-to-share videos, blog posts, podcasts, and social graphics that keep the energy and insights of your event alive long after the lights go down, maximizing engagement and ROI in a way that most teams never thought possible. Sam McDonald, welcome to the show.
You know, it sounded even better when you read it out loud. I read it in the email, and the bio was like, oh, man, it's going to be really good. But it just sounded 10 times better when I heard it.
Right?
Loud, right?
Yeah, it's the magic of words, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me, Seth. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, it is. And for some context, full transparency, Sam and I worked together for a long time in different capacities. Sam was always doing something cool with video, has a lot of experience in video production, but also AV. So it kind of sees both sides, a lot of corporate work, but a lot of other stuff too, super creative person. But just my first question for you is, how did you get your start in AV?
Well, I think there's a lot of similarities in whenever you ask that question. It's like most people started whenever they were kids, like at their churches or at their schools. And it's the exact same thing. We did church plays when I was a kid, and you know, running the audio board, you just felt like a little demigod when you were sitting there running the faders. And then, you know, I learned what a par can was. And then once I got into college, it was more about, you know, I was a DJ for years. So I did the audio side of things, which is funny because I have nothing to do with audio. Well, I mean, I do some audio stuff, but really I stepped way away from the audio side of stuff and jumped into video. And, you know, I did radio for a long time, and, you know, I just sort of stayed with it. I probably should have gone into being a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. But, you know, once you're in it this long, you got to double down and just stick with it. Right.
I'm in it, especially if it's still interesting and fun. So, okay. It begs the question, did you have a DJ name?
So I had two, actually. It was DJ McD, but before that it was DJ Broadway.
DJ Broadway.
DJ Broadway, because I had one of my mentors as a DJ mentor. As a DJ, you always get a mentor, whether they're good or bad or whatever. I had a great one. He gave me this name of DJ Broadway, and then, of course, 6 months later, I was like, I like DJ McD better, so I renamed my brand. Really went in a new direction there. The labels were just, they loved it. So
all right, I got new names for you for later. That's for later, though.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate
that away. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur? You know, was that something always in the back of your mind when you were kind of growing up in this industry? I guess it was being a DJ, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's where, you know, in college, that's a fantastic entrepreneurial. It's a great gig to have because like the hours are pretty lax, it pays okay, and you know, it's not a lot of really high stakes. It's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of fun people. But before that, my first business, I was 5. I was selling rocks to the neighbors. I would go and collect like really pretty looking rocks, literally, and I would go to the neighbors and be like, "This one has quartz. Would you like to pay $10?" Right. And I don't know what that business evolved into, you know, from that aspect. But I moved on from rocks and then got into the other entrepreneurial stuff. I've always liked being my own boss, and I've done the full-time corporate gig, and I've done that, and I learned a ton, and it was a fantastic opportunity. But it was also a great. By the end of that little session of my life, it was like, you know what? Maybe you are just better as, why don't you go ahead and do your own thing for a little while, bud? We'll catch you out.
Right. I love that. I love what you started there. We'll get into it in a little bit, but You know, we're going to talk a bit about videos as it pertains to corporate events, and specifically the capturing of the show itself, not so much the playback of like some pre-canned videos for the show, but the actual content that you created in a show. And in your experience, what's the typical usage for video records created at corporate events? You know, like what do you see when you look out at the landscape of corporate events? What are most people using that content for post event?
It's funny. So like groups like LEMG are going to go in and they're going to produce this amazing event for the client. They're going to bring in a really well lit stage, and they're going to have these cameras, and they're going to have a wide shot and a tight shot, maybe even a handheld and some robo cams and maybe a slider, even a jib in some big shows. And then all that's getting recorded, right? That's been my job for years and years. I would be the person who's like, oh, here, take the records from this show. So I would take hours and hours of footage from one show, and I put it all on a hard drive, and the hard drives got a little faster over time, but it still took a long time. And then we put all this stuff on the hard drive, and we have the ISO records, and we have all the different types of video layers, and you hand it to the client, and you're like, oh, I packaged it up. It's really well organized. You're going to find all these different sections here. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. We're going to put that right over here on the shelf,
Right.
and we're going to see you next year. And that's it. Like, and there are some clients, don't get me wrong, some people are doing more with this. Like they'll take it and repost it on YouTube, and hey, we got the playback up there, and that's really neat, very cool. But that's it. Like I've never, it's way more often that clients are going to not do a lot with that footage than they are going to really tap into its true potential.
Right. So how it's managed post event, the footage is managed is basically it's not. It's just
Exactly. Well, they don't. It's hard. These are huge files. It's a lot to deal with. That hard drive sometimes doesn't even show up on certain people's computers, right? And so it's a pain. We've got another event to get to, so you're not going to worry about it.
Yeah, we were talking before we hit record here. I remember early. It dates me, and really probably before you were in the industry. But some of my first gigs had like some room at wherever you worked that had all the archived tapes, you know, like whatever format it was, with like some crazy labeling scenario. And usually no one's really grabbing those tapes ever. You know, it's just sitting there. And that's how I imagine these hard drives, just like that digital version of that tape closet doesn't go anywhere, you know, which is kind of a shame.
Well, and it's crazy. The last place the full-time gig that I have, by the end of it, I had at least 40 terabytes worth of show records sitting on a shelf. And this is, you know, early 2010s. So those video files are pretty small, actually. So that was so much more video footage then than that would be now. And you're right. People are still doing the exact same thing. It's just the closets have gotten smaller, and they're still putting stuff in there.
And I think it comes down to like, you know, from a meeting planner's perspective, there's so many check boxes that you've got to get through just to get to the event. When the event is done, there's that post-show adrenaline, which all of us are in it for. Anybody in live events, whether it's in theater or corporate events or whatever, there's something about the camaraderie, about the crew and everybody. We pulled it off. We did it. But then everybody wants to take a nap and then move on to the next thing, you know?
Right.
And I think it just gets forgotten about. And so what do you mean when you say maximize your event's return on investment? So I did my homework. I went through some of your literature, whether it be online or videos that you've done. And you say some cool things that I'm going to pull out here a little bit, but what do you mean when you say maximize your event's return on investment?
So there's a lot of things you can do during your event to where you can get people to want to come back and get people to think of you on the next time around. You know, that you can treat them with respect. You can have really nice dinners. You can have your attendees have, you know, a really great experience. And that's a huge part of it, you know. But one really big, giant bowl of low-hanging fruit is taking the actual event, capturing everything that happens at the event, and then taking that and spreading it across the course of the next year up until the next event. Because you're right, there's this really awesome, like, oh man, this event is over. It's fantastic, really neat. All of your attendees are going to lose that interest probably about the time they set a foot off the plane.
That's right.
And they get back to their lives.
To their day job.
Everything else is going on. So why would you not take that opportunity to record that footage, turn it into something else, not just other footage, turn it into all kinds of other things, and interact with your audience the rest of the year so that they are continuously being touched by you. And your event is still like about every couple of months, or every couple of weeks, they get touched just by the insights that you provided at that event. And by the time the next event gets here, you've already got more people signing up for this thing than you did originally because you just maximized the insights.
Yeah. Yeah. This kind of leads into another thing I heard you say is recorded show content isn't posterity, it's potential. Right. And what do you mean by that? Is that kind of like an aha moment for you with Echo? Is like, wait a second, we treat it almost with this formality that we need to push past and say, this isn't like some like recording a wedding, and so that generations to come can see. This is a totally different use case scenario of video. Is that kind of like this revelation you came to?
I think that, for a wedding video, there's a built-in audience that's going to care about that. It's your family, it's your friends. They're going to go back and look at that. The attendees at your event now, that's a different story. They aren't necessarily obligated to care about you or what you're saying beyond the time that they leave that event. It is your obligation as an event planner or as an event host to make sure that these people are still engaging with the wonderful things that are said at your event after the event. They're not going to do it on their own. They're not going to go in and search you out and be like, oh, would you please tell me more about that? I mean, maybe some of them will, but the majority of them are just not going to care unless you give them a reason to care. And so whenever I say, there's more potential there, I mean, one, you take the video and you turn it into all that other stuff. But the other side of that potential is the true insights that happened at the event, the smart people on stages saying smart people things. That's really powerful. And guess what? You paid for those people to be there. You might as well be recording them and using their brand to relate back to your event all year long.
So walk me through that. You talk a lot about breaking down a single long format video. So let's just say the morning session of general session day 2. You have this 2.5 hour grueling video to watch because even on site, it was fine to watch. It was produced really well, but no one's going to watch a 2.5 hour like corporate event in its long format. So walk me through breaking that down in all the different use cases that you can think of that 2.5 hour video that included maybe like a keynote. You had some like financial performance review kind of stuff. You had a moderated panel. You had a bunch of stuff in there. Right. So talk me through what you're thinking, in that.
First off, there was a bunch of stuff in there, right? And this is something that event planners and people who want to host events are very guilty of, or as presenters especially, is cramming way too much information into a single presentation. Now, there's nothing I've ever been able to do to convince people to not do that, so they're going to keep on doing it. But the main point is that the first thing you need to do is give people an opportunity to actually go back and really digest what you said during that event. And so let's think about it this way. So you've got that one big long chunk of video, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and first off, we're going to give the whole big chunk of video because somebody somewhere might want that. You're going to put it on YouTube. You're going to put it in some long form. But then we're going to take maybe 10 little chunks out of there or 20 little chunks out of there for 2 hours. Only the best highlight moments that go out for that entire event. Okay, then we're going to take those and put those in the format that they need to be for the different social platforms. So each one of those little clips is going to be rendered out in 16:9, 9:16, and a 4:5 ratio. That's the different sizes that we're going to have in these different things because different social platforms are optimized for those different sizes. Like in fact, if you put something on a platform that's not the right ratio, it'll actually get shoved to the bottom of the queue because it's like, oh, that doesn't really fit what we're going for right now.
Right.
So we've got that. So, but then cool, let's take those out of the side. We got the big chunk of video again. Let's pull the audio out of that, right? So we take the audio out of that. Let's transcribe that. All right, cool. Now we have an audio transcription. Sorry, get the video out of the way now. We've got the audio transcription that we can then render into a really awesome service, like any one of them, like Otter AI or any sort of meeting service is going to take that, transcribe it, give you the transcript out of it. And then we're going to take that same transcript and we're going to write 15 blogs based on the content that was said inside of that transcript because that's so valuable right there. And then beyond that, we're going to take the audio, go back to the audio, pull that back up, chop that up into 10 different pieces, and you've got yourself, and meetings are naturally built this way. They automatically progress in these little sections. We're going to take little sections of each of those, and we're going to create a podcast out of each one of those, because not everybody wants to watch video. Some people love to listen to things. I've very much so recently got into that. So I'm going to create an intro. I'm going to voice that out. I'm going to put that in there. Then beyond that, I'm going to go back to that transcript, and I'm going to create a searchable database to where I can go in and say, okay, when and where did this person talk? And I'm going to try something here. We make sure that our editor's not going to yell at me for this one. Okay, so let me know if you're able to see this, Seth.
Yeah, I got you.
So you should be looking at this really cool thing right now called the Event Pro Show, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's a really great podcast.
I've heard really good things. Really good
fantastic
things.
Yes. So we're going to go in here. And I'm going to go into any one of these, and I'm going to, and this is otter.ai, by the way. I'm not trying to hide anything or make anybody not see anything. But so from all of the sessions that you had, I pulled in some of the audio. This one was 37 minutes long, falling forward, lessons in resilience, a fantastic. So I've got overview insights that come in on this. It basically runs down the entire session, the 37 minutes. It also gives me an outline of what you did. And it also does early memories. Okay, look at that. All kinds of good stuff, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, can you create me a blog from this recording? And we're going to give that, about 12 seconds. Don't fail me now, Otter. You can do it. There we go. Literally, just like that, based on a transcript, I have now a blog that is being rendered out and chaptered based on exactly what you and your guest talked about.
I love it.
Now, just so we're clear, this is not rocket science. I am not a tech person. A lot of people can do this, which might kind of sound like I'm sort of, hamstringing my own business because honestly, me saying that a lot of people can use AI to use this stuff right now, it's just already out there. Everybody's already starting to think about it. Anybody who's telling you that they know something that you don't, they're probably just got a big old mask of marketing veil that they put up in front of you. This is the stuff that's super exciting to me. So feel free to reel me back in off my rabbit hole that I totally
no. So now, okay, so you've taken a 2.5 hour video and you have now parsed it out into 10 usable pieces of video content, which is something that you can use in all sorts of different ways. You put each piece of video content, you've got 3 aspect ratios, so you could push it to any platform. You could schedule it however you want, whatever makes sense. Along with it, then you take the audio transcription, you turn it into blog content that then could be paired with some of that video content to make it more dynamic if you want, or you could separate it all out. You could also create podcasts out of the audio only components, just the audio itself. So what you've done is you've taken that one morning general session and you've created essentially on-brand marketing for the next 3 months if you wanted, just using a session for like a whole quarter of really original marketing content. I might add, as long as your speakers have it in the contract that they allow you to use their content. but meeting planners should know that. But if everybody's on board with that, which usually people are, so usually people are totally cool with that, then you have tons of marketing content that you can use all throughout the year, and then leading back up, building energy for next year's annual event or whatever. I just think that this is such a wonderful way of using all that hard work, because producing a live event is super expensive. So the AV alone is probably a top 3 line item expense for most meeting planners, along with food and beverage and venue costs. It's just a tremendous amount of money. But if you can show to whoever you're having to prove your budget to that, hey, wait a second, this is our live piece for our live events, but I'm also just contributing for free to my marketing team all of this original content. You can reduce their budget or whatever, however you sell it. It just makes the budget that you're asking for your live event that much more justifiable in a world that really needs original content. And I love the demonstration of Otter that you showed. It's a wonderful tool, and I've used it quite a bit on this side. And what I found with any AI is original content going in makes awesome output. It's not, this isn't just depending on like, say, ChatGPT, create content for me. It's not that at all. You're pumping in original content and then it's kind of parsing it out into usable pieces. And that's what I love about it. It just saves kind of that middle hard process.
And that's such an amazing point, is that the people standing on your stage are human, and these humans are saying human aspects. Now, if you take that human speaking, me talking right now, and you use their actual voice, you're using insights that are not produced by AI. This is a person talking, and that's their voice. If you produce the content from that voice, therefore, there's this there's an algorithm on Google that where it actually will prioritize things where it knows it's being written or brought in from an original voice, an actual person.
Right.
The algorithm will take it and stick it to the top of the queue.
And prioritizing it.
We should be doing that, because in an age where everybody is rolling out so much AI slop that is very irrelevant. Don't get me wrong, the talking babies are cute. That's neat. And I love the gorillas who run through, and the stormtroopers are fun. But
it gets to a point, though.
Exactly. But at some point, it's like, we got to start doing something original here, guys, or else we're going to just be in this weird cesspool of AI for the rest of our lives.
That's
so
right.
I think events are a fantastic place to capture those insights. Everybody's already dressed up. They're already presenting. They smell nice. They generally showered already. It's a fantastic opportunity, right?
Great lighting.
Right.
72 degrees. Okay, so as meeting planners begin to think about, like if you were giving advice to a meeting planner thinking about their upcoming events as it pertains to video capture. So like on the planning side, when you're thinking, okay, my end use case is what you just described. What are some tips that make original footage as usable as possible post-event? So, for your setup and your capture, can we do more things to make it a little more usable for what someone like Echo is doing?
Yeah, so I'd say the first thing you need to do is get in touch with your production company and be like, hey, are you guys running IMAG? Image magnification. That's whenever you have a person on stage and we have the camera that shoots the person and the person goes up on the big screens. If you have IMAG in the workflow already, you are like about 2 feet away from already having a very well recorded, nicely put together session. And your production team has already got great microphones in the place, or at least they should. And they've got good cameras that should have good color balance on them. And they should have multiple cameras. Any event over 500 people is going to have that in the workflow anyway. So you need to talk to the production company and be like, hey, let's go ahead and record that if they're not already doing that. And, I'll be honest, generally negotiating records in with a production company should be something that you do really early in the process, in my opinion. I'm also not a production company, like in the sense that LEMG is. But I would say having that conversation early with the production company saying, hey, look, we really want to make sure we capture everything. That production company is already going to have the tools in place to get all this stuff anyway. You might as well hit record and maximize it while you're at it.
Yes.
So that would be my thing. Just work with the production company in the first place. There's also, so Echo, I come from a very strong video production background. We have tons of cameras. We've got all sorts of audio capabilities. We can record all the sessions. We can go down to the expo floor and get tons of recordings there. But I'm never going to suggest to a client that we put our cameras and stack them right up next to the production companies unless that production company is atrocious. In most cases, what they're shooting there is going to be perfectly usable for our uses.
Yes. And this happens a lot, the partnership between different production elements. Usually we're talking to each other. We want to talk to each other, figure out, oh, if you're doing that, that's cool. Can we just have a feed from you, or vice versa? That's great. Our industry is so small that it's just great to have friends. And so that usually works out. Don't be afraid of asking that. And what I hear you saying is, when in doubt, just hit record. And even if, I will even say, like, even if it's just an audio record, modern digital consoles, you can slap a USB drive in there and hit record. Some of them are doing it on board, and that costs relatively zero. Right. It's very little. And you're right. If a multicam shoot or even a single cam shoot is there and doing IMAG, whatever, go ahead and ask them to add recording. It's not going to be that much money. But from what Sam's telling me, you can create so much content post-event. So don't go all the way to like creating an original event and then not going that 1% step forward to kind of hose yourself and not have that content in the can that you can use for months to come.
So much potential there, and you actually hit the nail so far on the head. So the people who are going to succeed moving forward in events are the people who are capturing more of those insights faster and doing more with them. So yes, record the general sessions, do it. Record the workshops. Even just getting clean audio is going to get you a fantastic transcription. But let's take a step back here. You mentioned budget earlier. Let's say that there's an event, a really large scale public-facing event with the medical industry where they've got an expo floor with 100 presenters and a bunch of general sessions and all this stuff, tons and tons of content. And you contract Echo and say, hey, look, I want you to do a 30-minute interview with every one of those people on the expo floor. You got 5 days to do it. Figure it out. So we figure it out. We capture all these interviews. We capture all these presentations from these people. We also collect all of the general session records and the workshops. We take that entire massive ball of verbiage and data and very valuable insights, and we hand it back to the event manager and say, hey, look, do you want to sell this entire batch of content to your highest sponsor? You want to give that to them? How many people do you think would find that so incredibly valuable to have the insights of 100 plus professionals talking exactly about what's happening in a very active industry? And like what top end medical company wouldn't pay 50 grand for that? They're going to, because you're not going to get those insights anywhere else. And you're not going to get those insights unless you record them or take the time to do it. So that's like my dream right there. Is like, I want everybody doing that, and I want them to use Echo for that. But everybody can start doing this sort of thing right now. You can go buy a little H8 recorder and stick it in the middle of a 10-person meeting, record that, and you've got it set. You've already on your way.
That's right. And circling back to the important part here about what we're talking about is the information itself. It's original, unique. Get it recorded. However you have to do it, as good as you can afford right now. And there's so many tools to make it useful. Now, the higher the quality, the better it can be made to look, and the more you can do with it. But at minimum, hit record.
Right. Absolutely.
So what do you think, as say that you do have the budget and you are coaching presenters, I'm kind of digging a little deeper here. Planners are coaching their speakers on the upcoming event. And I did an episode about this in season 1, that in corporate events, we typically live in a world of amateurs. And so I was talking in regard to making someone feel comfortable on stage. Comes down to all sorts of things, not just rehearsals, but like your DSMs and like your foldback speakers and how the lights are, and giving them time to go out and see their stuff and the look and feel. But on that note, how can planners coach their speakers to create more compelling presentations for video? What are things that look great on video, little keys or tips that we could share with amateur presenters that, hey, this will look better if you do this or add this element to your presentations?
So the funny part, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting question. I never really thought about it like that. And my advice on that is that if you can get that presenter, if you can feel comfortable presenting on stage and present to that audience, it's kind of like the difference between a Broadway play and a movie. Like, it's sort of the same thing. If you can present really well to an audience of 5,000, 1,100 people, and you're facing them and you're not putting your back to the crowd, and you're really gesturing and you're making eye contact with everybody, and you have great energy, if you can perform well on stage, the cameras are going to take care of themselves. You don't even have to worry about them. So don't even worry about the fact that you're presenting to a camera, because just focus on the one big thing. You've got a really awesome audience. If you engage with them and present the information to them in a very compelling manner, we're going to capture the video side of it. It's going to take care of itself, so you don't even have to worry about it.
Love it. I've always said that we worry, planners, production people, whatever, we spend so much time planning for events, and sometimes leading up to an event, you're like, gosh, I hope everything was thought of. And then the crowd comes in and you're like, oh, it's like it adds a bit of magic. And then all of a sudden, oh, we have an event. It's happening. And that's the same with like presenters. Like, you make them comfortable, and then who they are comes out, and that's gold. Like, you just make them comfortable, make sure they're looking the right way and feel good about what they're doing, and they're going to do what they do. And we just capture it. you know.
My favorite thing at events is whenever you have the weird oddball who is just made for it. Like they sit in an office year round, and they're like they're technology something or whatever, and they're typing all year round. But for some reason, at this one event they're hosting, and they just come totally out of their shell, and they're just like, oh my gosh, you're fantastic. Like
Right.
well, I just do this on the side a little bit. I was like, that's great. I love seeing that whenever they really come to life on it.
Yeah. I bet you would kill as like an MC of a corporate event. You would crush.
Well, actually, your name came up 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was working a gig, and there were a couple dudes from North Carolina there. They were breakout techs or something like that, and I was like, "Oh, you know Seth Mackey?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah." And I was like, "You know what that dude can do better than anybody on the planet that I know?" They're like, what? He's like, check a microphone. The way that you check a microphone is still legendary throughout the Midwest.
Yeah, I don't get to do that anymore.
You can string together the corporate verbiage that means absolutely nothing, but so engaging for everybody. Seth, I just hope you understand that is missed.
Yeah,
so if you do, you just
you caught me off guard with that one. I hadn't thought about that.
Just every couple of years, get back in the saddle, be an A2 for a day, and show the folks what you can do. It's fantastic.
So a little context: when you sound check a system and you're trying to make sure it's not feeding back, someone needs to get up on stage and talk so the sound guy at the front of house at the console can like work on it. Sometimes you're talking for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. So I had listened to so many like corporate speakers and motivational speakers in my life that I could put together a whole like half-hour presentation of nothing. And it was my goal that I would, this would be when it was empty before anybody got there. But if the client came in to check the room, I remember one time I saw them talking like concerned in the back, like, did you hire this guy? Who hired this guy? I could tell they were trying to figure out like if I was some talent or something that nobody knew about, No,
like who's this random speaker up here? Like, did we hire him?
Who's this guy?
The production crew would come in, like people would hear you sound checking, and like we would all just sort of line up in the back of the room, being like, "Oh, guys, this is gonna be really good."
Yeah, that was
we could sit there for like 20 minutes.
Full moron mode. All right, well, I appreciate it. So, I have a few other questions for you. What do you think corporate? Like you and I have been doing this for a while, and things are changing so fast. So this is a question that you cannot answer. But what do you think corporate events, like corporate event AV, will look like in 10 years?
So I think the speakers, the lights, the sound, that's staying the same. I'm sorry. People still need to hear stuff, and they're not making some sort of computer program that just automatically makes your brain waves understand what the person's on stage is saying. They're still going to need speakers. We've needed those for years, and they're not going anywhere. You're still going to have projection, all those things. What's going to change is the way that our attendees are going to be interacting with these events. So 10 years ago, if you would have said, okay, I want to do an event, and then right afterwards, I want to do a meeting, and then right afterwards, I'd love to get an executive summary of what happened in that meeting and give me some points of what happened, and then share everybody's contact info with me. I'd like that to happen instantly. 10 years ago, that didn't exist. Then COVID happened, and we all got on Zoom, and everybody started pumping money into Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and it started coming up with all these capabilities. These capabilities of like, oh, I want the information again, and I want it the way that I would like it. And so just like what I showed in Otter AI, we are going to start expecting that from our live events, and we're going to start expecting it faster and sooner than ever before. Because if you start watching the micro changes within the online meetings that people are engaged in daily over and over again, those are the expectations that are going to be starting to point right at the production teams and right at the event managers saying, hey, we would like your big event to do this exact same thing, and we want it to be done really fast, and we don't want to have to ask for it next time. It needs to be an expectation.
Yeah, I think you're right. The speed of actionable content post-event or during, like as it's unfolding,
And that's a huge deal. Like there's all sorts of technology that's out there right now and beyond, and I've heard some people talking about like actual cameras that point back to the crowd, and based on their eyes and the interactions with when they look up or when they look down at their phones and how interactive they're being with you, they can reattribute those insights to what's being said on stage, and then sponsors can instantly get that information to know what people are actually caring about. And this technology is, I think it's coming out of Germany or something about it. I was at a meeting and I heard one of some production guy talking about it, and I was like, that's the kind of thing that is going to be really revolutionary whenever it becomes like an everyday type thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. More information. That's the
All
way
the
it
time.
always is. I don't know if I can deal with any more information, Sam. I think I have enough, but there
Well,
will
that's
be
the
more.
thing. It's like, you've got two options at this point if you're an event planner. You can either say, okay, I think I'm good. Let's just have a nice meeting and everybody
Mhm.
get along and let's have some good stuff. Or you have to keep up with what's happening
Mhm.
because what else? What are your other options? Because everybody else out there is going to start expecting this and start integrating it into their systems and their events. You can't be
That's
the
right.
person that's just like, oh, it's never going to catch on.
Yeah, we're never going
That
to
AI
change.
stuff, it's not going to really impact what we're doing.
Nope, you
Let's
won't
just
have
have
an audience after a while.
right.
Well, man, I'm super excited about Echo and what you've launched there. If people want to learn more about you and Echo, what should they do?
Makeitecho.co. Makeitecho.co. Just sort of a really nice basic website. It's changing all the time. Echo's in its really fun, gangly adolescence. I've been doing events for 15, 20 years, but
Hmm.
Echo itself, especially now, considering all the ways that AI can integrate with content repurposing, um, it's changing basically every couple of weeks. The mission is the same: capture more with your events and do more with what you capture. But how we're going to start exporting that content is going to be changing all the time. So I'm going to try and be as transparent about it as I can. I'm going to let everybody know how I'm doing it, and I'm going to, tell clients that I can do it for them, or they can try and do it on their own if they want to.
Right. I love it. Well, good luck with Echo. And I thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to me. It's been great catching up and learning about what you're doing.
I really appreciate it, Seth. We'll talk soon, buddy.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Event Pro Show. If you want to hear all of our episodes, you can go to theeventproshow.com, where every week I will have a new guest that somehow touches corporate events. And then on the alternate week, I will be sharing tips and deeper insights into the production of corporate events. Either way, I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks. The Event Pro Show is a production of LEMG. Video by Nick Barrett. Audio and post-production by Prince Thompson. You can learn more about us at lemg.live.